today we are going to talk about the energy flow in ecosystem. In this particular lecture, we learn about very important functional aspect of ecosystem referred to as energy flow as a part of ecological energetics. All the living organism of ecosystem ultimately depend upon the external source energy for carrying out various biological activities. This energy is derived from the sun in the form of radiant energy. Light energy of the sun is transformed into the chemical energy by the process of photosynthesis, which is stored in the plant tissues and then transformed into the mechanical and heat form of energy during the metabolic activities. These conversions and sequences are fundamental to the energetics of organism and ecosystem. So, in this particular part, we are mainly concerned with the understanding of how energy moves through an ecosystem. Ecosystems themselves remain in balance by maintaining the flow pattern of energy flow. In the biological world, the energy flows from sun to autotrophs and then to all the heterotrophic organisms. The simplest way to describe the flux of energy through ecosystem is as a food chain in which the energy passes from one trophic level to the next. So, let us have a closer look at the structure of food chain, which can be divided up into different trophic levels. Strictly speaking, the trophic level are the levels of a food chain where organisms obtain their energy. It describes the position and role of a particular organism in a food chain of any ecosystem. Organisms can be playing a role of either producers or consumers in the terms of energy flow through an ecosystem. Now, ecologists assign each organism in an ecosystem to a feeding level, also called a trophic level, depending on whether it is a producer or a consumer and on what it eats and decomposes. The food chain starts with a producer, which form the base of ecological pyramid referred to as first trophic level. At this level, primary producers like plants, algae and some bacteria obtain energy from the sunlight to produce the organic plant material through photosynthesis. The organisms that feed solely on plants are called herbivores or the primary consumers. They make up to the second trophic level. Now, we talk about the predators that eat herbivores called carnivores or secondary consumer comprises the third trophic level. Carnivores can feed at the trophic levels of the secondary, tertiary and quaternary consumer, or even higher if a particular food chain is long enough. And then there are some animals that eat both plant and animals called omnivores. Now, omnivores can potentially feed at any of the consumer trophic levels. There is just one more trophic level to talk about, and that is the level of detritivore, which is an organism that feeds on the waste products or the dead organic material. Examples of detritivores include fungi, molds, worms and bacteria. Since detritivores can take dead organic material and bring the stored energy back into the food web, they can be thought of as recyclers of ecosystem. Now, the detritivores or decomposers process detritus from all trophic levels. In reality, the ecosystems are much more complex than this. Most consumers feed on more than one type of organism, and most organisms are eaten or decomposed by more than one type of consumer. Because most species participate in several different food chains of ecosystem, the organisms form some sort of complex network of interconnected food chains, which is called a food web. Now, food web is the one which helps in tracing out the flow of energy and matters within the trophic level. Now, let us move to the detailed study of ecological energetics. Ecological energetics include energy transformation within the ecosystems. The study of ecological energetic involves three important aspects in terms of measurement of: number 1, the quantity of solar energy reaching an ecosystem. Number 2, quantity of energy used by green plants for photosynthesis. And number 3, the quantity and path of energy flow from producers to consumers. Now, let us start with the knowledge of quantity of sunlight reaching an ecosystem and the amount of energy used for photosynthesis by autotrophs. As we have discussed, the energy used for all plant life process is derived from solar radiations. A fraction, that is about 150 millionth of total solar radiation, reaches the Earth's atmosphere. The solar radiation travels through the space in form of waves. The wavelength, which ranges from 0.03 angstrom to several kilometers. While most radiations are lost in space, those ranging from 300 millimicron to 10 micron and above 1 centimeter, that is the radio waves, enters the Earth's outer atmosphere. The energy reaching the Earth's surface consists largely of visible light of between 390 to 760 millimicron and infrared components. On a clear day, the radiant energy reaching the Earth's surface is about 10% UV, 45% visible and 45% infrared. The plants absorb strongly the blue and red region of the visible light, which is 400 to 500 millimicron and 600 to 700 millimicron respectively. About 34% of the sunlight reaching the Earth's atmosphere is reflected back into its atmosphere. 10% is held by the ozone layer, water vapor and other atmospheric gases. The rest 56% reaches the Earth's surface. Only a fraction of this energy reaching the Earth's surface, which is about 1 to 5%, is used by the green plants for photosynthesis, and the rest is absorbed as heat by ground vegetation or water. In fact, only about 0.02% of the sunlight reaching the atmosphere is used in photosynthesis. Nevertheless, it is this small fraction on which all the organisms of ecosystem depend. Now, let us briefly outline the quantity and path of energy flow in ecosystem at various trophic levels by describing different energy flow models. First of all, let us understand the precise meaning of energy flow. The behavior of energy in ecosystem can be termed as energy flow due to unidirectional flow of energy. From energetics point of view, 5 different aspects are essential to understand for an ecosystem. Number 1, the efficiency of the producer in the absorption and conversion of solar energy. Number 2, the use of this converted chemical form of energy by the consumers. Number 3, the total input of energy in form of food and its efficiency of assimilation. Number 4, the loss through respiration, heat, excretion, etc. And last, the gross net production. Now, let's look at how much energy actually flows through the food web. We know that the plants and animals use energy in their daily activities, and we also know that plants and animals store energy within their tissues. So, how much energy is used by an organism and how much is stored? Well, the answer actually varies based on many factors such as type of organism, but there are a few key rules of thumb that we use to estimate how much energy is used and how much is available to the next trophic level of food web. The principle of food chains and working of two laws of thermodynamics can be better made clear by means of energy flow models. Now let us understand the flow of energy in ecosystem by single channel energy model first. According to this model, out of the total incoming solar radiations, which is 1,18,872 gram calorie per centimeter square per year, 1,18,761 gram calorie per centimeter square per year remains unutilized, and thus gross production, that is net production plus respiration by autotrophs is 111 gram calorie per centimeter square per year with an efficiency of energy capture of only 0.10%. It may be noted that 21% of this energy or 23 gram calorie per centimeter square per year is consumed in metabolic reactions of autotrophs for their growth, development, maintenance and reproduction. It may be seen that 15 gram calorie per centimeter square per year are consumed by herbivores that graze or feed on autotrophs. This amounts to 17% of net autotrophs production. Decomposition accounts for about 3.4% of the net production. The remainder of the plant material, which is 70 gram calorie per centimeter square per year or 79.5% of the net production, is not utilized at all, but becomes the part of the accumulating sediment. It is obvious then that much more energy is available for the herbivore than is consumed. It may also be noted that various pathways of loss are equivalent to and account for total energy capture of autotrophs, that is gross production. Also collectively, the three upper facts, decomposition, herbivore and not utilized, are equivalent to the net production. Of the total energy incorporated at herbivores level, that is 15 gram calorie per centimeter square per year, 30% or 4.5 gram calorie per centimeter square per year is used in the metabolic reactions. Thus, there is considerably more energy loss via respiration. By herbivores 30%, then by the autotrophs, which is 21%. Again, there is considerable energy available for the carnivores, namely 10.5 gram calorie per centimeter square per year or 70%, which is not entirely utilized. In fact, only 3 gram calorie centimeter square per year or 28.6% of net production passes to the carnivores. This is more efficient utilization of resources than occurs at the autotrophs, herbivore transfer level. At the carnivore level, about 60% of the carnivore's energy intake is consumed in the metabolic activity, and the remainder becomes the part of not utilized sediments. Only an insignificant amount is subjected to the decomposition yearly. This high respiratory loss compares with 30% by herbivores and 21% by autotrophs in this ecosystem. From the energy flow diagram, two things become clear. Firstly, there is one-way street along with which energy moves, that is, unidirectional flow of energy. The energy that is captured by autotrophs does not revert back to the solar input. That which passes to the herbivore does not pass back to the autotrophs. As it moves progressively through the various trophic level, it is no longer available to the previous level. Thus, due to one-way flow of energy, the system would collapse if the primary source, which is the sun, is cut off. Secondly, there occurs a progressive decrease in the energy level at each trophic level. This is accounted largely by the energy dissipated as heat in metabolic activities and measured here as respiration coupled with unutilized energy. Now, let us understand how laws of thermodynamics govern the process of energy transformation in an ecosystem. It is usually applied to the closed systems. The first law of thermodynamics is the law of conservation of energy, which says that energy may be transformed from one form into another, but is neither created nor destroyed. If an increase or decrease occurs in the internal energy of the system itself, work is done and heat is either evolved or absorbed. This law explains the interconvertibility of all forms of energy, but does not refer to the efficiency of transformation or conversion. In ecological systems, the solar energy is converted into chemical energy stored in food materials, which is ultimately converted into mechanical and heat energy. Thus, in the ecological systems, the energy is neither created nor destroyed, but is converted from one form into another. The second law of thermodynamics states that process involving energy transformation will not only occur spontaneously unless there is degradation of energy from a non-random to a random form. Now we know that the energy transferred through food chain and food web is not very efficient. The reason is that with each energy transfer, some usable energy is degraded and lost to the environment as low quality heat in accordance with the second law of thermodynamics. In the diagram, boxes represent the trophic level and the pipes depict the energy flow in and out of each level. Energy inflows balance outflows as required by the first law of thermodynamics, and energy transferred is accompanied by dispersion of energy into available heat, that is respiration, as required by the second law. A simplified diagram of energy flow model represents three trophic levels in which it becomes evident that the energy flow is greatly reduced at each successive trophic level from producer to herbivore and then to carnivores. Thus, at each transfer of energy from one level to another, major part of energy is lost as heat or other form. There is a successive reduction in energy flow from one trophic level to the other. Thus, of the 3000 kilocalorie of total light falling upon the green plants, approximately 50%, which is 1500 kilocalorie, is absorbed, of which only 1%, that is 15 kilocalorie, is converted at first trophic level. Thus, the net primary production is merely 15 kilocalorie. Secondary productivity, which is given by P2 and P3, which tends to be about 10% at successive consumer trophic levels, that is, herbivore level. The efficiency may be sometimes higher as 20% at the carnivore level, that is, P3 is equal to 0.3 kilocalorie. Thus, we can conclude that shorter the food chain, greater would be the available food energy, as with the increase in the length of food chain, there is corresponding more loss of energy. The percentage transfer of energy from one trophic level to the next is called ecological efficiency. Thus, ecological efficiency is the product of efficiency with which organisms exploit their food resource and transform them into biomass, which becomes available to the next higher trophic level. It ranges from 2 to 40%, that is a loss of 60 to 98% depending on the types of species and the ecosystem involved. But 10% is typical. Assuming 10% efficiency or 90% loss at each trophic transfer, if green plants in an area manage to capture 10,000 units of energy from sun, then only about 1,000 units of energy will be available to support herbivores and only about 100 units to support carnivores. Thus, more trophic levels in a food chain or web, the greater cumulative loss of usable energy, as energy flows through various trophic levels. Energy flow model explains why the earth can support more people if they eat at lower trophic levels by consuming grains, vegetables and fruits directly rather than passing such crops through another trophic level and eating grain eaters such as cattle. The large loss in energy between successive trophic levels also explains why food chains and webs rarely have more than 4 to 5% trophic levels. In most cases, too little energy is left after 4 or 5 transports to support the organism feeding at these higher trophic levels. This explains why there are few top carnivores such as eagles, hawks, tigers and white sharks. It also explains why such species usually are the first to suffer when ecosystems supporting them are disturbed, and why these species are so vulnerable to extinction. Now let us learn about the second model, referred to as Y-shaped energy flow model. E.P. Odum reported that there are present two basic food chains in any ecosystem. The first one, the grazing food chain beginning with green plant, base going to the herbivore and then to the carnivore. And the second one, the detritus food chain beginning with the dead organic matter acted by microbes and then passing detritivore and their consumers. Now let us take examples of another energy flow model representing Y-shaped or two-channel energy flow models. One of the first published energy models was pioneered by H.T. Odum in 1956. In this model, a common boundary and in addition to the light and heat flows, the import, export and storage of organic matter are also included. Decomposers are placed in a separate box as a means of partially separating the grazing and detritus food chains. Decomposers are in fact a mixed group in terms of energy levels. In each Y-shaped model, one arm represents the herbivore food chain and the other the detritus food chain. The two arms differ fundamentally in the way in which they can influence the primary producers. The important point in the Y-shaped model is that the two food chains are not isolated from each other. This Y-shaped model is more realistic and practical working model than the single channel model because number one, it conforms to the basic stratified structure of ecosystems. Number two, it separates the grazing and detritus food chains in both time and space by involving the direct consumption of living plants and utilization of dead organic matter respectively. And number three, that the microorganisms and macro consumers differ greatly in size metabolism relations. E.P. Odum gave a generalized model of Y-shaped or two-channeled energy flow model applicable to both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. As per the diagram of this model, the shaded box labeled B represents the living structure of biomass of the component. The total energy input is indicated by I, which is light for strict autotrophs and organic food for strict heterotrophs. It might be considered as a universal model that is applicable to any living component, whether a plant, animal, microorganisms, individual population or a trophic group. This universal model of energy flow can be utilized in two ways. Number one, it can represent a species population, in which case the appropriate energy inputs and links with other species would be shown as a conventional species oriented food web diagram. Number two, the model can represent a discrete energy level, in which case the biomass and energy channels represent all or part of many populations supported by the same energy source. It must be noted that these models depict the basic pattern of energy flow in ecosystem. Practically, under natural conditions, the organisms are interrelated in a way that several food chains become interlocked and ultimately results in a complex food web. The complexity of food web depends on the length of food chains. Thus, in nature, there operate multi-channel energy flows, but in these, the channels belong to either grazing or a detritus food chain. Interlocking pattern of such several food chains in food web leads to multi-channel flow of energy, which makes it difficult to measure the energetics of ecosystem under field conditions. Thus, in generalized manner, we can say that in the flow of energy through ecosystem, the ultimate source of energy for most ecosystems is the sun. Secondly, the energy is passed from one trophic level to the other, with the ultimate fate of energy in ecosystems is for it to be lost as heat, as depicted by single channel and Y-shaped energy flow models.
In this particular lecture of environmental biology, we have learned about very important aspect of ecological energetics as energy flow in an ecosystem. Initially, we have gained the knowledge about various trophic levels to understand the movement of energy in an ecosystem. Then, we have focused on the study of measurement of quantity of sunlight reaching an ecosystem and the amount of energy used for photosynthesis by autotrophs. Not only this, for better understanding of energy flow in an ecosystem, we have discussed single channel and Y-shaped energy flow models given by E.P. Odum. We have also acquired an idea about how two laws of thermodynamics govern the energy transformation in an ecosystem.